Thanks for the introduction, and that saves me a lot of time to introduce myself and tell who I am. I am a data scientist for more than 20 years building these sort of systems. At my day job at Commonwealth Bank of Australia, um, I do manage a number of teams, and these teams do a lot of work that's very important to our customers. And that includes many things, including something that we're open sourcing today together with H2O.ai, which I'm very, very excited. It's happening literally right now, which is our model for detection of abusing transaction descriptions. And this is allowing any institution, any financial institution in the world to actually use our model to kickstart the journey to preventing abusing transactions using the CommBank model. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm not talking about CBA at all. This work is literally the work I've done on my spare time at home. So let me walk you through this, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to change the slides. I'm guessing someone else do that for me. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what I'm going to walk you through today is literally how to build your own email bot that will respond to your email. I'm kind of on a journey to automate myself, and there's a bunch of tasks I'm trying to do that. One of them is emails. So I'm going to walk you through Luiz bot and how to create your own LLM with your emails. Then going through how do you actually enable this on Gmail and so on, and how you actually achieve profit at the end. Right, so let's go to the next one. Luiz bot, my email bot is waiting for you. So I expect everyone in the audience send me an email to this email address. It will be replying automatically. And if it doesn't in a few minutes, I'll make sure it happens after the conversation. The reason is that I have two systems working. One that actually decides whether a message is worth replying. And so it means that if it didn't reply automatically, it thinks it's like a marketing message or something that is not worth replying. If it does reply automatically, it went through. Otherwise, in the end, I'll make sure that I send there's two systems. One that always replies, but it's not an automate, and the other one that always replies automatically. So send your message during the talk, and maybe we'll share the replies later. If you go to the next slide. So this is an open source project that I made on my GitHub. So you can go there, you can clone it, and then do everything that we're going to run through here, and do your own email bot. And I can see some messages coming by, which is amazing. Next slide. So let's go and try to create our own LLM. Let's do it. The next one, please. So the first thing you need to do is actually get your emails. Right? You need an email corpus to train your own LLM on your emails. So the easiest thing to do this is to use Google Takeout. So you obviously go to Takeout, and now we go. My video is going to start very soon. There I am. Thank you. Now you can see me. And I'm also even automating myself out of my eyesight. So I'm using NVIDIA to make sure that I'm looking at the camera. So you use Google Takeout, get all your emails. You can actually do some selections there, but ideally you get everything. And if you go to the next slide, then you have inside the LLM you have a file there that's called convert mbox to CSV. So you run that, which means that you need to take your mbox file. You need to tell what is your email address, what CSV you're going to do. And one of the latest additions I did was actually to make sure that you only take emails up to a certain date. I noticed my previous bots were taking information that were 10, 20 years old, and that wasn't ideal. So you can select that. You then have an CSV file, which looks like this, which the message full is your prompt, and your reply is actually the autocomplete from the LLM, and that's why you're fine tuning. And it's an example of my wife saying, "Oh, have you paid for this thing?" And then I just say, "Oh, I updated the details yesterday." It's like pretty much this kind of chain of information. On the next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Now, having that CSV file, you can use LLM Studio, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Sandeep's presentation before talk about LLM Studio. Amazing tool by H2O.ai. Very simple. Add your data set there, and then create experiments. I use a model, or a Facebook 2.7 billion parameters for this. I tried the 125 million parameters, didn't really work that well. But the 2.7 worked really well. You don't need bigger models than that for email. It's really overkill for that simple task of emails. Go for the next one. So after you train your model, what you want to do? You want to test it, right? So there's a file there, LLM reply, which also guides the replies of the bot. But if you run it, you have a Gradio app that you literally can work through the responses. So you just pretend to be an email, receive an email. Here in this case, it is how do you reply? So if you want to see how a reply goes, you have to add the re in the subject and add the context, which is the message, and then you can see how this would reply. Here's like I pretended Tom Cruise asked me a message to participate in one of his movies, and I can see the reply there and the chain of like some other made up messages that the bot made, which is very, very, very interesting. So yes, I'll do that. If you go to the next slide, I tested with the Luiz bot, and kind of said to Tom Cruise that I don't have time for Tom Cruise, which is kind of hilarious in a certain way. Going to the next slide. So now let's enable the bot and API. So go one more slide, please. What you need to do after cloning, after training your model, after testing, you go to the Google API. You need to enable the API. You need to then enable, do the things that follow here, right? Or auth. Then you go to the next slide, and you have, sorry, it takes a while to get to my screen. Then you need to get your credentials. So here you create the credentials, the authentication credentials. And you see on the right here that you have that file, you download that JSON file called credentials. So you add that credentials to your folder. Then when you execute the LLM bot, will ask you to click a link, which then you're going to click on that link, and then you give permission to the app to read your email messages and communicate with your email messages, like send messages as well. Now, the one thing that is going to happen is every week that gets refreshed. I need to figure out ways to work this better. But currently, I think every week you need to do a refresh of that authentication. Not the credentials themselves, but I click on the link and make sure that it's authenticated. On the next slide, please. So, and the next step now is to configure this file, config.py. It's very simple. You have to get your model name there. You can see the model there's Facebook opt 2.7b. That will not work. That's just a placeholder there. And what I do, I add my own models on Hugging Face. So I push my models to Hugging Face in the private environment. That means that every single computer that I work, and I can actually pull the models from there. And you just add your name, add the information you have here, the templates you want in the response. And some of you might have seen some of my responses already. That's pretty much it, right? So you run, just one detail. I have this running normally on my Mac, and you can actually add to the cron tab, just as you see it below there. Or you can add a parameter that you check every certain number of minutes, and currently it's checking every minute. And but this is the way you want to decide. Like if you want to run in a Mac, you probably run on cron, so it doesn't consume any power, just doesn't consume much memory and so on. Next slide. So yeah, what can go wrong, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you saw some of my responses and thought, yeah, a lot can go wrong. But let's have a look at some examples. Next slide, please. So here's some examples. A friend of mine sent me a message to test the system. How are you? You like your job? I like you live in Sydney. And it's a pretty good response, right? enjoying my work, staying in Sydney. I might move back to Brazil. I'm Brazilian, my background. And it is mentioned that I'm considering moving to Hong Kong. To be honest, I'm not. I'm not moving to Hong Kong. I'm not moving to Brazil. But it's a really good response. I actually lived in Hong Kong for a little bit, and that has that context somehow. Next slide. This is an early one that I wrote, literally my first version of the system. I co-organized the ACM Recommended System Conference this year. And this first email is so spot on that amazes me. We were deciding options about the program of the conference, how it was going to be. And this answer is so right that it kind of scared me. The second one is interesting because I'm as organizing an industry chair with Justin from Netflix. This was not it was a good response, but the program not necessarily that good. If you notice that there's like barely anything to do in this program. But the good thing that it identifies at 12:30 we should go for drinks, and I just love that response. Going next slide, please. This is an interesting one because I've received most of my messages are non messages that I need to reply to. And this was the government in New South Wales where I live, sending a message about new active kids and creative kids, which I do have kids, and hence that's a really pertinent message. But the bot felt that I needed to respond to, can you please send the voucher to me by email, which is not necessarily what you do, but it's a perfect response, and nevertheless. Now, the interesting thing about this is that because my messages are mostly like this, and everyone's message you probably don't need to respond. One addition I had to the LLM recently, and that's the reason why some of you I'm not probably getting the responses, is I try to identify what messages are worth responding. So on the CSV file, you see things like do not respond, which means if the bot notices that the completion of the LLM is do not respond, it simply do not respond, which then makes my life easy. It's not too much red in the draft emails on the inbox. Next slide. Yeah, this is another example that I shouldn't respond, but I just thought it's interesting to add here that Google send me articles of people, and then and you might have seen in my response that sometimes I'm still a PhD student at Macquarie or some university that make up, and it makes up a paper. So there's a little bit of hallucination here, but nevertheless, some responses are pretty good. Next one, and I think, yeah, now I wonder how did my bot go? How did Luiz bot go? I'll just have a very quick check here on some answers. Yeah, if you didn't, I can see some that were just testing and hence the bot refused to respond. There's some here that, but my favorite topic is the pizza. This one did not decide to respond. Maybe it's a secret. And what's my stance on pineapple? The response wasn't very good. I will hit reply very soon. But let me see if I find one that the automated responded. So Jessica asked me my favorite color, and there's a lot of weird answers here. But somehow it picked up that you're from H2O, and it is talking about water. Anyhow, it's not perfect, but you probably see some good things and some bad things there. I hope you're able to clone my project, work out and your own LLM. And I'm not quite sure. I don't think we have time for questions. But thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have fun with Luiz Bot.